Great. Well, I want to say good evening to everybody. Thanks for being here on this Thursday evening for Family Promise of the Verdugos Money Matters series. This is the last one of 2021. And I really appreciate all of the regular attendees who have been on this workshop over Zoom for the last several months. I recognize names from participants who have consistently attended, and time has gone by so quickly, and here we are staring down a new year. So this evening, our topic is to begin thinking about how best to set ourselves up for 2022. So New Year financial planning tips for 2022. Now, I know the holidays are like quickly coming around the corner, and you're going to be extremely busy with family and friends and all kinds of holiday sort of related events. And so this will be the last workshop that I do for December before the new year. So I wanted to talk about just sort of planting the seed in your mind of how we can begin planning for better financial health and making better financial decisions in 2022. So I'm glad you're here this evening, and let's walk through some goal planning and some things that we can be doing to improve upon 21 now that we're wrapping up the year. And this is a great time before the holidays to sort of think about how 21 turned out for you, some of your successes when it comes to managing your money, and maybe even some mistakes that maybe you made during 21 that are some good learning opportunities, some good teachable moments to improve upon for 22. So let's think about a number of things tonight. Let's think about goals. Now is a great time to reevaluate your financial goals. It's also a good time to make new goals for the new year, and see how we can just make some smarter financial goals. It's also good to be thinking about your savings plan. If you attempted to save during 21, how did that work out? How did that go? Were you consistent? Were you systematic? Did you have to use your savings at all? What were you using it for? Was it for what if situations, emergencies, or were you dipping into it and maybe robbing it for other maybe opportunities, but maybe just because you weren't managing your fixed expenses and bills, and it sort of got away from you and you had to dip into your savings. So let's go back and let's reassess our savings plan for 22. Did you pick a method of spending this year? Did you try to do cash only? Did you try to cut out maybe some of your credit card use? Did you try to swipe less with your debit card? Basically, looking back at 21 and then looking forward to 22, how did you take control in the past year? And what could you do better for 22 to take even more control over your finances and not let your bills and expenses and your paycheck sort of take control of you? And what were those reoccurring expenses that you saw throughout 21 that you know are going to still be the same for 22? Did you try to cut out expenses, lower your monthly bills and costs during 21? And what could you do even more for 22? So this is a great way for us to sort of go back and reflect on sort of the work that we've done in 21 and how we can improve for 22. So let's talk about goals again. I always use this acronym. It can be used for any sort of goal that you're setting, whether it's just a life goal, whether it's a personal goal, or whether it's a financial goal. I always love to talk about making SMART money goals, and SMART standing for goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely, right? So before we do that, let's just sort of reassess 21 for a second when it comes to our financial goals and what we got accomplished, and maybe what were some setbacks, and did we take a couple of steps backwards on a number of financial things. If you made mistakes in 22, you have to give yourself permission to move forward. Don't get hung up on it. Maybe you bought something that you regret. Maybe you overspent on something. And now you're regretting that purchase, or you're regretting using those funds, or you're regretting robbing your savings. And you're thinking about, oh, if only I would have not used that money. If only I would have not spent that amount. Just think what I would have. Don't get hung up on that. Give yourself permission to move forward. Let go of those sunk costs, right? It doesn't help us if we're sort of paralyzed, right? Paralysis by analysis. If we keep thinking about the mistakes that we made, if we keep wondering how things would be different, if only I would have. Yes, for a moment, it's good to think about that and say, look, next time I got to save that, or next time I'm going to not purchase that item, or next time I'm going to do this financial maneuver differently. I'm going to make this decision in a different way, right? But let go of it. Let go of those mistakes, right? We make them, and we're going to make them. We're probably going to make them in 22 as well, right? But learn from those and move on. One lesson that I learned a long time ago, whether it's in finance or whether it's just in life, maybe it's related to your job, maybe it's related to starting a side hustle, a lot of these topics that we've talked about, is if you feel like you are failing, fail quickly, meaning move on, right? Don't get stuck in those mistakes. Don't get stuck in those wrong decisions and feel like there's no way to improve and there's no way to move forward, right? So fail quickly, move on, right? Take what you learned from it and improve going forward. So 22 is a great time for us to reorganize our goals and maybe reprioritize, right? So maybe for 21, you put savings as your number one sort of financial goal. And now that you've got that accomplished, maybe you need to reprioritize, move savings down a little bit, and maybe you need to, I don't know, cut expenses, or maybe your goal is to increase income. Reprioritize those goals for 22, right? So again, coming back to the SMART goals acronym, for 22, you have to sit down, and whether it's in a notebook, in a journal, on an app, in the Notes app on your phone, wherever, you need to write these goals down, right? And lay them out in a way that is specific, right? What are you specifically trying to achieve? Have each goal be measurable. Am I trying to save $500 by April of 2022? Or is my measurable goal to save a percentage of my paycheck each month? Like, put some numbers to it, right? You can't just say, well, I want to have more money. We have to ask ourselves, if I speak generally about goals like that, what does that actually mean? What does that look like? How can we quantify that in terms of numbers, right? So it has to be measurable. It has to be achievable. If you're going to try to save $500 by April of 2022, is that actually doable? If you're negative every month after getting paid biweekly, paying your bills, paying your rent, getting groceries, doing everything that you need to do, if you end up negative every month and waiting for that next paycheck, maybe saving $500 by April is not achievable. And you're going to end up setting a goal that you can't achieve. And that's only going to be discouraging and depressing. And it's probably going to keep you from, taking control of your finances even more, because you feel like, oh, I failed. I can't do it, right? So make sure that the goals are achievable. Make sure that they're realistic. Is it realistic to save that 500 by April? And is it timely? Maybe April is too long. Maybe it's too short, depending on what you can save, right? So make sure that your time frame, your timeline for your goals is appropriate, right? So One of the things that we can think about as we're building our goals is, okay, in 21, did I automate my savings? Meaning, how should I put this? Was I saving habitually as a habit, systematically? Was I paying myself first, right? Or was I only saving when, okay, I had some extra dollars at the end of the month, and then I would save. Or I could only save if, I physically moved money from checking to savings. Automate your savings in 22. Make sure that it happens automatically, right? Set up an automatic transfer. If you were afraid to save in 21 because, wow, my income just goes up and down every month, it's sort of different with what I'm left over, maybe you don't need to save an amount. Maybe you need to switch it to a percentage, right? And make it automatic so that you don't decide to save when, okay, I have some extra dollars. No, I'm always going to save regardless. And then if I don't have the extra dollars at the end, I'm going to have to work out something else. Maybe I have to spend less on fast food. Maybe I have to not go retail shopping as much, right? You can see how choices throughout the month can affect other decisions that you're going to have to make. So if you want to save, it's always best to set up an automatic transfer that happens at the top of the month, right? So you manually moving over money to savings from your checking, only if you have it by the end of the month, chances are good by the end of the month, you won't do it because you don't have that much, or you won't remember, and then it's the next month, right? And you say, well, I mean, this month, this next coming month, I'll try to save. Put it on autopilot. So you don't have to think about it, but you're doing it. It's doing it for you behind the scenes, right? And savings is an actual expense. You're paying yourself first. If that's a bill you don't want to pay, then I don't know how serious you would be about saving. But let's think for 22 to automate our savings if we haven't done that. Second thing is for 22, just like any year, monitor your spending. What is the method by which you are paying for things? Are you using cash, card, debit, electronic payments? Are you using all those methods so that you're not really able to track between one or the other how you're utilizing your money? We always talk about giving each dollar a job. Well, if you're using so many different payment methods, then it's hard to track all of that. It's hard to monitor our spending because I'm using a little cash, I'm putting stuff on a card, I'm swiping a debit card, I'm using Apple Pay or Venmo or PayPal or whatever. And it's hard between all these different methods to monitor that unless you're super, super disciplined, right? But we've got to monitor because that's how we can get into overspending, because the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, because I paid cash over there, and then over here I did Venmo, and then I use my debit card there, and just money's going out in all these different directions. So what you may want to think about for 22 is, how can I sort of filter down and just select maybe one or two payment options that I know I can track and I can monitor, right? So maybe I'm going to put my credit card away, only use those for bigger purchases, a one-time sort of purchase. It's not something that I'm going to swipe every day. I'm going to put that credit card away, and I'm only going to use maybe my debit card and electronic payments for daily spending, day-to-day expenses, right? That way, all I have to do is track what's happening on my debit card and what's happening in my Venmo or my PayPal or Cash App account, right? Simplify it. That will make it easier in 22. Another thing to think about is, if you have a side hustle, if you're starting your own business, if you are bringing in extra income, separate in 22, separate those business expenses from your personal expenses. Now is going to be a great time in this new year to say, look, I've been working on this side hustle. I'm starting to make some sales. I'm starting to make some extra income, but I had it all mixed together with my personal account, my personal expenses. If I needed something for the business, I would go to Target, buy something, and it just, I don't know, it came out of my personal account, right? Stop mixing and intertwining business and personal expenses, business income, personal income, right? Now is a great time at a new year to split those, right? So that what you make in your side hustle and the expenses of your side hustle stays on that side, and what you do on your personal side stays there, right? Because if that side hustle grows and into a bigger business, and maybe you start filing a Schedule C as part of your tax return, a sole proprietorship, because you're now doing taxes for the business, it's going to be easy to have already separated what's in your business versus what's in your personal, right? And it helps protect the accounting on your personal side, right? Because now you've got them split and you can monitor them separately, right? So that's a good goal for 22 if you've got a side hustle going or a new business that you're trying to start. Split up the numbers. Another thing, and I mean, the technology is just rapidly increasing, and we're just all trying to keep pace. There are so many tools out there for us to track our money, to track our finances, and to see this in real time all the time. If you're not looking at your bank account, if you're not looking at your statements, if that is scary to you, you're fearful of that, you can't be anymore. You have to have eyes on your personal financial situation, and it's easier more than ever between apps on your phone, apps that are provided to you from your bank to monitor your accounts, your checking, your savings, apps that monitor your investments, whether you have something in Fidelity or maybe you have a Vanguard account and you're dabbling in a little bit of investing. There's so much technology out there to track all of this, right? That if you're not looking at things on a regular basis, you're missing something. So if you know that you're behind and you tend not to look out of fear, 2022 is the year for you to sort of catch up technologically and stay on top of your finances. Once you get over that little hump and you keep looking at things on a regular basis, it's going to help you manage your money better. And when you come to make purchasing decisions, when you have to make decisions about how to utilize your money, it's going to be so much easier because you know exactly where you are right now in the moment versus going, gosh, I hope if I buy this, I hope I have enough money. Or I hope if I do this and I make these financial moves, I hope I can afford it. No, I don't want you to hope that you can afford it. I want you to be in the know about where your finances are so you can make better decisions here in the new year. It's going to help you organize and streamline your numbers. And it's going to help you get away from that cluttered sort of paper statement, bunch of mail kind of information. And it's going to have you house everything right there on your phone, right there on your computer. So this year, think about consolidating and aggregating all of your financial information sort of all in one place. There's great apps like Mint. Mint is a great one. Your banks have their own as well. There's plenty out there to use. End of the year, got to review that budget. Beginning of the year, got to establish that new budget. Think about this for a sec. Now that we've turned the corner into the holidays and maybe you haven't had your mind on your spending plan, when was the last time that you reviewed your budget? Was it back in January when you first made it in 21? Or I don't know, maybe you looked at it last month. Great. Review your spending plan over 21. See how your budget worked out. Were you getting your money's worth? What does that mean? Did that hard-earned money that you went to work for, I don't know, 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday, punching that clock, doing all the extra overtime, did that help you get to where you want to be? Did you get your money's worth? Did you utilize your resources? Or was your money sort of leaking out for all these subscription services or for things that you don't even utilize anymore, but you're just paying? You just continue to pay, right? That means you're not getting your money's worth. So as you establish your new budget for 22, simplify, simplify, simplify. Where can I make cuts in expenses? Where can I get my money's worth and make sure that when I use funds to purchase something, to buy a subscription, to get a service, that you're utilizing it? Are you still paying for the gym that you didn't go to for the last several months? Cut it out. Exercise in a different way, right? So going back and reviewing that budget is going to be super, super helpful for starting off the new year. So as we start to establish goals, if we want to make smart money decisions, we have to reflect. We have to look back at 21. What can we do better in 22? And I can't wait. I can't wait till March. I can't wait till April. A lot of people do this. I hear this all the time. Well, once I get into the new year, or once such and such happens, or I'm moving, or we're about to have a kid, or when the time is right, then I'll, right? Well, those are excuses that, yes, they buy us time. They give us time, but most of the time we're giving ourselves time, not because we need to get organized or not because we need to do other tasks first in order to make that decision. We're just buying time so we can avoid it, so that we don't have to deal with preparing, so that we don't have to think about, oh, the stress of money. I totally understand that psychology, but you'll feel so much better even if you took baby steps and you started tackling these money decisions now to prepare for 22. So if we were to set 5 financial goals for 2022, here's sort of maybe how I would structure this, just to help your thinking. Ask yourself, what do you want in 22? Yes, what do you want from life? What do you want from your career, your occupation, your job? What do you want for your family? What do you want for the people that are closest to you? What do you want for yourself? But what do you want financially? Assess where you're at right now in 21, and where do you want to be at this point in 22? When we come back around December of 22, where would you like to be? Where would you like to see yourself financially? So that then begs the question, what's going to be your plan to get there? You can't just say, I'm going to do better. What does that mean? I'm going to do better. I know you intend to do better, but we have to lay this out specifically. What's your financial strategy? Maybe it could look like this. Goal number 1. Let's put all of our goals, our SMART goals, in writing. So maybe in the next couple of weeks before the new year, as you start taking some time off of work, you start, having some free time for the holidays, commit to writing down your spending plan, commit to writing down your budget, commit to writing down your goals, right? The reason we can write them down, and that's going to be more effective, is when we see that visually, and it's not just sort of floating around in our mind, we can always check back in with that. Like I said, maybe you write it on a Post-it and it's on your desk. Maybe it's on your refrigerator. I know of one person who actually took a whiteboard marker and wrote on the mirror in their bathroom. So every day when they woke up and they got ready for work, they saw those goals, and they had life goals and they had financial goals. Put it on a piece of paper, put it in a journal, put it in the top drawer of your desk, put it right in front of your computer, put it where it's visible. Writing it down is the next step in committing to those goals. Maybe you go another step farther, is you show those goals to your spouse, a partner, a friend, a colleague, a coworker who's also working on goals, and you hold each other accountable to that. Hey, you promised, you said your goal was to spend less, I don't know, eating out at lunch during the workday. And maybe your colleague holds you to that, right? Okay, we got to bring lunch from home. We're going to eat in the workroom. We're only going to do 2 days out of the week. We're only going to do 1 day. Like, get an accountability partner. That's going to definitely help. I keep talking about savings, and it's always got to be a goal. So if you've already started, continue to build that emergency fund. If you haven't started, there's no better time, like I said, than right now to start. Start the emergency fund, right? One thing that we know in life is that we can always expect the unexpected, right? You're going to have that flat tire. The water heater is going to go bust. Kids are going to need stuff. You're going to have to go to the dentist. Like, we have these expenses that, while they may not occur regularly, we know at some point it's going to happen, right? So I think if we plan to expect the unexpected, we're going to be more successful in handling them and dealing with them. So the rule of thumb when it comes to a cash reserve or an emergency fund is to have anywhere from 3 months to 6 months of income saved. 3 to 6 months of income. So for a lot of us, and I know for me too, that would be difficult. How can I have 3 to 6 months of monthly income saved up in case something were to happen to my income, my job? What if I got disabled, like I couldn't work? 3 to 6 months, that's the rule of thumb. That if that's difficult, create a different rule for yourself. The rule of thumb applies to the general population, but your specific scenario is different. So maybe your rule of thumb is, I'm going to have at all times $1,000 in my emergency fund. Maybe it's $500. Commit to a number as your second goal. What's that going to be for 22? How are you going to maintain that through the year? Is it going to be if you get lucky? Is it going to be, I have $1,000 in there because of my tax refund? How is that $1,000 going to remain at that level throughout the year? If I have to use it, if I have to tap into it for a set of 4 new tires, how am I going to replenish the 1,000? Right? So you got to come back to paying yourself first. That's the only way it's going to get replenished. You can't wait for your next tax refund. We've already mentally spent the tax refund even before we get it. So if it's going to take another year to replenish it because you're waiting for your next tax refund, it's probably not a good plan. So maybe the tax refund seeds your emergency fund. It starts it, right? And then you layer on top of that monthly systematic savings, even if it's $25, $50, right? Pay yourself first. Goal number 3, we got to deal with debt. We're always constantly trying to deal with debt. So whether you have student loans, which, by the way, the moratorium on paying back student loans and student loan interest that was paused during COVID, that's going to start up again in the new year. So maybe you got to wrestle with student debt. Maybe you're wrestling with credit card debt. Maybe you still have an automobile that you've just been really fighting and struggling to make payments on, and you just want to get that thing over with and done and paid off, right? So no matter what kind of debt it is, make a goal to deal with that debt. If you don't know how much you owe and how much you need to pay off in terms of those debts, I got student loans, but I don't know how much. I get stuff from all different lenders. I don't even know what I owe anymore. Now you got to find that out this year. By the way, in order to find that out, you can log into studentaid.gov and you can find your total loan amounts that you've taken out in undergrad, graduate school, and so on. If you don't know how much credit card debt you have, Brian, I got multiple credit cards, 6 credit cards, 8 credit cards. I got consumer credit cards. I got department store credit cards. I got gas cards, you name it. I got cards. You got to sit down and figure out what cards you have, what the interest rate is on each of them, and what are the current balances. The only way to tackle it is to know where you're at right now. That's the only way that you can move towards being debt-free, is to confront that stuff. Decide how you're going to pay it down. Are you going to start with the smaller balances? Let's just get some quick small victories, and let's get rid of that credit card that has this lingering balance of $250. Let's work on that. Let's get that out of the way. And let's use then those minimum payments, now that that card is done, on the next debt. And let's create an avalanche, right? Let's create a snowball effect. Whether you start from the little debts or you start with the large debts with the highest interest rates that are growing the fastest, let's try to get those paid down and try to eliminate that. Decide on a strategy that you're going to use. So learn about it, commit to one, as we've talked about in the past, and then move forward to start paying those things off, right? So that dealing with debt could be a goal for 22. How about spending with a purpose? We talked about this throughout 21, is deciding between needs and wants. What do I actually need? I think a huge, huge lesson of COVID was that during this global pandemic, we realized that we could live with a lot less. We were forced to in many ways. And then as we started getting used to it, we said, well, now I don't really need to spend on stuff that I thought was so critical for me before the pandemic. So deciding between needs and wants in 22 in order to spend with purpose, right? Go on a cash diet, like we've talked about before. Utilize a small envelope system in your wallet or in your purse. Give yourself $50 a week. This is the cash diet that I'm on. I only have $50 for lunches and dinners out. Once I run through the 50, it's gone. I can't just throw another $50 in my wallet. If I have leftover, it rolls over into the next week. Or maybe you decide to do something different with it, like save it, right? So write down, even just make a simple T-chart, right? Where you write down, these are the absolute must-haves that I need, that I'm going to have to spend money on, whether it's gas, getting to my job, whether it's groceries. Like, decide what is necessary, and then decide what are the would-be nices. What are the simple pleasures that I want, that I certainly deserve? And I'm not saying you shouldn't have simple pleasures, you should. But what are the things that really, in the end, I don't need? They're wants, but I can do without them. And I'm willing to make the sacrifices on those wants because it's going to put me in a better financial situation. Write those things down. See it in front of yourself. Goal number 5. If there's one last thing that I can leave you with here in December is, are you paying yourself first? Right? Should be at the beginning of the month. So in January, when we get into the new year, when you get that first paycheck in January, commit to an amount or commit to a percentage, right? Even if it's 10% of that first paycheck, 10% of, I don't know, let's say I make $1,500 in that first paycheck. That's $150. If that feels like, ooh, that's a lot, I don't know if I could sacrifice 150, then dial it down, make it 5%. Do half of that. If I could just put $75 away from that first check, done. I paid myself, right? It's in savings. Now I don't have to wait until the end of the month and see if maybe I have enough to save. Do it right at the very beginning. That will set the tone. That will set the pace for the new year, right? Because if you can do it in January, you can do it in February, and you can just keep it going, right? And then you get to tax time in April. And then maybe you got that refund, and now you dump that refund into your savings, and that gives it a boost. but you keep saving that 10%, that 5%, that $75, that $25, whatever it is, right? And then maybe part of your goals is to say, look, by the summertime, I want to take a 4-day vacation. But all along for the first 6 months of the year, you've been building up for it. Maybe it's become such a specific, serious goal that maybe you even have a separate account, a vacation account, right? If you have multiple accounts at different places, at different banks or online, maybe call one of them your vacation account. Call one of them the kids account, right? So for back to school clothes or supplies, or like give each of those pools or buckets of money a specific title so that you remember what the job is of those monies and why you're saving. Oftentimes, if we just save because we know it's a good thing to save, it's not as purposeful if we say, look, I'm saving for this goal. And now I'm not only saving, but I'm achieving this goal. So give those accounts titles even. I always love the start of a new year because it means that we can do things differently. We can do things better. And I think with all the topics that we've covered throughout this year, you're definitely set to have an amazing 22. If you have questions, if you need help, if you need resources, if you need answers to specific financial questions based on your situation, your scenario, make sure that you reach out to Lisa. Maybe it's in the new year when you have to do that because you're too busy right now. But email her, ask her for help. She can get you answers. She can get you resources. She can get you connected to the right people. Maybe you're looking to save money on daycare. See what's out there. Ask Lisa. Maybe you are looking for a new job. Maybe you're thinking of changing careers, finding a new job. Talk with Lisa. Maybe you need to, it's financially related, but maybe you just need to work on your resume. Talk with Lisa. Family Promise is here to be a resource. That's why we do these workshops. That's Lisa's job. That's what she's good at. So I guess the last thing that I would say here at the end of this year is just really implore you guys, because you've committed to these workshops, go that one next step and reach out to Lisa and the organization for help. That's what they love to do. So happy holidays to everybody here, and happy new year. And again, if you need help with your financial goals, reach out to FPV. Lisa, maybe you want to talk about programming that's happening in the rest of the month here before Christmas?
Yeah, so next week, Thursday the 16th, Burbank Adult School will be coming on to talk to us about some of the vocational classes that they offer and other different services that they have there, such as ESL for second, English as a second language, I'm sorry, for Spanish speakers, for example. They have other different classes like office administration, things of that nature. So if you're trying to find a new trade or, just gain some sort of skill in the work environment, just come on by and listen to what they have to offer. And just a reminder for everybody that we are doing a gift card giveaway. So there will be 4 lucky winners that win if they attend at least 2 workshops this month as well. So, and if you guys missed any workshops in regards to Money Matters, please also get onto our YouTube channel, which is FP Verdugos. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us again. And thank you, Brian, for your time.
Absolutely. Happy New Year, you guys.
Happy New Year. Take care.
Have a great evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.